Nobody changes gender. The whole thing is a myth. It's a fantasy. It's delusional. It's a psychological disorder. If someone were to tell me that they, had been told they need a sex change operation because they had gender dysphoria, then I would sit down with them and I would want them to look at the research work that says 60 to 70% of people who think they're transgender are suffering from what they call comorbid psychological or psychiatric disorders that are never diagnosed and never treated. And if they were, the desire to change genders would go away. The balance of the 20 or 30% that are left are suffering from phobias, some of them sexual, some of them not. There's other issues that need to be dealt with. There isn't one person who needs to undergo gender reassignment surgery to get right with themselves. They do need to get appropriate clinical help, good guidance. One of the problems is there's very few who are really able or willing to help people walk through this because it's a very messy process. It's very difficult. And now the laws work against the people to help them, especially young people. In many states now, it's against the law for a clinical psychologist to try to guide somebody out of gender dysphoria because that suggests that it's treatable. Well, it is treatable. The problem is they're fearful, I believe, that if they finally do discover that these people have disorders like I did, and like 60 to 70% of them, according to the research, these are not my numbers, according to the research, are suffering but never get treated. And if in fact, changing genders is so wonderful and so effective, and people are so happy about doing it, then I would like for that person who's asking me about this to tell me why then do 41% of them attempt suicide? It's because they're not happy. We know they're not getting the help they need. And that's really my message, is to get transgenders the help they need. Don't push them down the trail of hormones and surgery. That's not going to help them. They're going to end up with this part of this high rate of suicide population, or they're going to end up discovering 15 years later, that they had a disorder that could have been treated. And I've found from the letters that I get, somewhere between 8 and 12 years is a point of where regret sets in. Many of the transgenders who write me say, keep up the good work. You're right. We found out that we had regret at 8 years or 12 years, or like one of them wrote me 2 weeks ago, and he said it took 15 years for him to admit that he made a mistake. This is a terrible thing to suggest that someone began to manipulate body parts when they have the opportunity, if given to them, to have some disorder diagnosed and properly treated by somebody who's authentic and willing to work with them. And it'll take time. This is not easy. One of the things that drives this is that the sex change surgeries, like one in particular, is making $1,200,000 a year doing the surgery. So it wouldn't be financially effective for them to come out and say that it isn't a good idea. I don't make anything from this. I'm not a 501(c)(3). I don't have any financial benefits from this. I want to save the lives, as many of those that I can, and I want people to get the treatment and help they need. I want to change the dynamic. I want people to know that being transgender is redeemable and that you don't have to live that way.